Attention. Go ahead and start. I don't know if there's anybody in the back eating donuts or getting donuts, but maybe they'll come in a second. I'm going to turn it over to Mike Davidson. I just wanted to congratulate our guys. I know some of the boys who graduated aren't here, who were seniors last year, but maybe some of their parents are. And to win 2 state championships is a huge thing, and to beat teams. Tennessee has some really top tennis talent. I think you guys played some of the better schools, maybe some champions from some adjoining states last year, beat them. And I don't think everybody realizes what kind of talent you have to do as well as you guys did these past 2 years. So I'm really proud of you. And I want to just single out our coaches, Nat Bird, stand up and wave so everybody knows who you are. And Mike Davidson, who's done a fantastic job.
Okay, welcome. Thanks for coming. I want to talk a little bit about the 2018 season, talk about what's coming up, and then kind of recognize the players, have you guys come up one at a time. We got a slideshow. It should reset when we get to the end. This is near the end of the slideshow. A few from past years and then a few from the 2018 season. 2018 year, I think for those who've been a part of the tennis program, felt very different from the 2017 year. 2017 year, I think most of the year, we kind of felt like we were nipping at the heels of MUS and Baylor, trying to get on their level. Really kind of peaked at the right point. A few things broke our way, and then won the state championship in exciting fashion. Last year felt very different, and I think most people would say we were the most talented team in the state for most of the year. There was a lot more pressure on the guys because there was the expectation of this is a team that maybe should or could at least win a state championship. And the guys played great. It was really exciting to have that pressure and have them rise to the occasion, probably even more than we expected them to. We're hoping we had a chance to win state. Winning the Rotary and Carter in addition was made for a really great 2018 season. I think this year right now feels a lot like 2 years ago in terms of I think we have a very talented team again, but there's some other really talented teams in the state this year. MUS losing nobody. Macaulay just losing one starter and getting a lot of good talent coming into the school at the same time. And that's exciting. I mean, I almost am happier starting a season looking like the second or third team in the state, hoping we can have another great run in the spring. That's a more fun experience for me than the expectation of this is the most talented team from day one. Let's keep it that way. So I'm excited about potential, a lot of hard work ahead, but it could be a great 29 season as well. I'm going to go through, once I recognize you, if you'll come up after I recognize you, shake hands and get your ring from Coach Tips. We're going to go by grade. So we'll start with last year's 8th graders and finish with last year's seniors. First student I'm going to recognize was a big part of last year's HVAC championship team, made the varsity team at the end of the fall, really heavy hitter for his age. And when you talk about these early players, definitely a guy who I think will be a big part of the tennis program for years to come, and that is Anson Anderson. Second player I want to recognize, also a big part of the HVAC championship team last year. Very different player from the other 2 8th graders. Really high tennis IQ, not that the other ones don't, but really thoughtful player. Doesn't shock you with his strength at first, but a really smart player, places the ball well, plays like a much older player. And again, I think kind of surprises people on court. Again, going to be a big part of the tennis program in the future. Also, I think as soon as George Corzine graduates, is going to sweep a lot of championships and sportsmanship awards in the state. So I'm excited about his future, and that is Foster Pierce. Go this way.
You guys are athletic enough to do that.
Next player was the last member of the varsity team who was also part of the HVAC championship program. Tried out football, was a really good tennis player, tried out football as a 7th grader, had a great fall season in 7th grade with the football team. In the spring decided to try out tennis, really enjoyed it enough so that he said, I want to do tennis full year as an 8th grader. Was the #1 player for the junior school team when they won the HVAC, made the varsity team, and contributed a lot, both at 6 singles at parts of the year and at 3 doubles. It was great to see his relationship with with John Spurgeon. The year before, George kind of took John under his wing as a doubles player, and then John kind of did the same thing for this player during the season, which was fun to have that kind of paying it forward. Sad to see him go, but really enjoyed having him as part of the program for a year, and that's Hunter Johnson. Next player, it was his first year on the varsity program. He was a real top player for our junior school program and made the varsity team as a freshman. Very strong baseliner, good strokes. Again, another player I think is going to be a big part of the program in years to come. We've got a lot of seniors graduating coming up, and even this year I think he'll be competing for spots in the lineup. Excited about his future, excited about what he can do in the program next few years, and that's Scott Wallace. I think one of the big question marks for the team last year was losing George Harwell. A lot of returners coming back, but we have a guy who wins almost every match at number one. That's a nice place to start. But luckily we had someone return to the team after a gap year who could do almost the same thing George could. On his best days, he looked like the best high school tennis player in the state. He was a DecoTurf all-tournament team selection. He was finished as the state finalist. He won his biggest matches for us when we needed him, won the Carter Invitational, won singles. When it came down to semis and the finals, he swept two very strong opponents in straight sets. Closest set was 6-3 going against Hank Leathers and Brandon Cali in the semis and finals. So when the team needed him, he stepped up and won big matches for us. Obviously, I think has a very bright future at NBA and in tennis in general, and that's Baylor Sci. This next player was a sophomore last year who came to NBA in freshman year, played some tennis, and then made the varsity team as a sophomore. I think really hits a heavy ball. Was a strong player, can hit some strong topspin, got a really big serve by the end of the year. Got to play in a few exhibitions and other matches for us and did really well. Focusing on other things this year, but it was a great year to have him with the tennis program, and that's Danny Garcia. Unfortunately, the next player is at a funeral today, but next player, again, has a great attitude, made the varsity team for the first time as a sophomore. He's the kind of guy who comes to every event he can come to, every weekend practice, every optional practice he's here. Was injured in the fall, had to kind of try out at the end of recovering from an injury when he couldn't play in the most of the fall, made the cut and then kept on working hard every time he could. He's got 2 more years at NBA. I'm hoping he continues to develop and work hard. Did a lot of work this summer in Florida. I'm excited for his future as well. And even though he's not here, that's Brian Graves. Next player was in his 3rd varsity season. As a sophomore, was a strong junior school player. As an 8th grader, worked his way into the lineup. He was our Outstanding Improvement Award winner as an 8th grader. Ended up finishing the season as our 6th singles player in 8th grade. Really sadly, as a freshman and sophomore, injuries kept him from playing, but I couldn't be more excited to see him walking and moving around campus. It's going to be a great comeback. I'm hoping he stays injury-free. I'm crossing my fingers. He's got 2 great seasons ahead of him, and that's Sims Lance. Next player, like Sims, was a sophomore in his 3rd year on the varsity team. As an 8th grader, was a great junior school player, made the varsity team, and then did great during practice, but really became a real contributor as a freshman and a sophomore, became part of the lineup, gave one of the biggest favors to a coach you can give freshman and sophomore year during the state championship, which is to win so one-sidedly, no coach even stepped on court. Junior year, or 2017 against Edward O'Neill, left 0 doubt in that match, and the same thing last year against Felipe. He was off the court, it seemed like, in 25 minutes against those guys. So huge gift to win in really quick matches, to get us a quick point back after doubles last year. Really bright future. I think he's going to be a big part of the team this year and the team next year as well. He won the Spirit Award as a freshman for his great attitude, brought the same attitude as a sophomore, and I'm looking forward to it for 2 more seasons. Richard Cummins. Next player was a junior on the team. Last year was his first year on varsity. For those who followed him, knew he was a good player in the junior school, was really close to making the team freshman and sophomore year. And I mean it, that I wish every player who had that really close call as a freshman and sophomore reacted the way he did. Because a lot of players who had that experience would say, I'm doing something else. I'm going to play a different sport. I don't like this coaching staff. I'm pissed off. I'm going to go do debate or soccer or something else. And he said, I'm going to come back. I'm going to make this team. I'm going to work as hard as I can in the offseason. And that's what he did. And if every player responded the way he did to not making the team, we'd have a much better program. So I appreciate it. He had a really good junior year. I'm also really excited for one more year. I think his senior year he's going to have a lot more chances to play for us if he keeps on working hard. And that's Michael Nelson. Next player was also a junior in his second year with the varsity program. I talked about this at the end of year banquet last year, but I think the toughest spot to be in is right outside the starting lineup. And that's where this player found himself for most of the season. And it's a really easy place to get frustrated, where you're right outside the starting lineup. You know, a couple challenge match wins or a couple victories go a different way, and you're playing. And again, much like I appreciated the way Michael responded to some disappointment, this player could not have responded more positively. He was the loudest guy supporting his teammates at every match, even though he knew he was right there just outside that starting lineup. I'm hopeful he keeps on working hard and gets a chance not just to support his teammates on the sideline, but also in more matches this year. And that's Nikhil Peterson. Next up, we've got a person who got his fourth varsity letter as a junior. For those who know the tennis program well, he's almost as close as a coach can be as in his role. After 4 years, knows the program really well. During events like the Carter, he was really just like a teammate of the coaches in terms of getting us through those programs. Organizationally and caring about the team, he does a lot for the program. We would be a very different program without him. I'm hopeful I can get one more year out of him. I haven't asked him yet, but I'm hoping he gives us one more year. And regardless, after he graduates, the program's going to have a big void to fill. That's Campbell Cook. This next player was also earned his fourth varsity letter as a junior. Has been a real contributor for the team since the 8th grade, has always been a strong player and won a lot of matches for us. He was an all mid-state selection last year. He was our Outstanding Improvement Award winner. And when we needed him most, for those who went to the state championship, he did something for us, really needed him to. For those who watched this player over the last few years, he wins a lot of matches, and he loves to make them 2.5-hour, 3-set matches. He loves to drag it out. And for those who were at the state championship, we were at 2-all, and we had 3 matches remaining. And if there was one time I really wanted someone to clinch a match quickly, it was with John Spurgeon in full body cramps on one of those courts. And he delivered and won really great straight set matches in both the semis and finals. He has one more year for us. I'm excited to see him have another great spring, and that's Hugh Graham. Next up is a senior. He was a great player as a junior schooler, took a break to play some lacrosse, and then returned to the tennis program in his junior year. Played for us for 2 years. For those who knew him on the team, he had a really positive attitude. Guys liked being on court with him. Really big server, big hitter. Didn't break his way into the lineup like the other three seniors, but was a great part of the team. Always brought a smile and a great attitude. I think he was really a fun person to be with the last 2 years. Would have loved for him to do all 6 years. Had a little bit, had a break from tennis, but still was awesome to have him with the program for 2 years. And that's Oliver Briggs. I don't think we've. I'll find Oliver. Next up, we've got another senior who was a 4th-year varsity letter winner. Really, freshman and sophomore year, had a great attitude and was great during practice, but didn't break into the lineup. In junior year, he was the Outstanding Improvement Award winner. Ended up going from being a non-starter to being our #1 doubles player with George and our #3 singles player. In his senior year, was up and down. I knew he'd finish somewhere between 2 through 5, probably in the singles lineup. Ended up at 5, never complained, played wherever he was, had a good attitude, whether he was playing his best tennis or worst tennis, supported his teammates. Excited for his future at the Naval Academy. I think I'm happy that he had this experience here before going there. I think accepting for him is his mother, and this is John Spurgeon. Next player, also a 4-year letter winner as a senior last year. He was, much like John, a supporting cast member as a freshman and sophomore. Also wasn't named Outstanding Improvement, but probably was the second, would be runner-up for that award as a junior as he worked his way into the 6 singles lineup. For those who went to the state championship in 2017, when we clinched 4-2, he was still on court, unable to finish that last match. And there was a lot of speculation in 2018 about what would have happened if he had come down to him being the last match. And I was so excited he got one more chance at that. Had some real highs and lows during his senior year, but always responded well and worked hard and got that chance in the state championship. And seconds after Hugh won his match in straight sets, this player got to clinch the state championship. I was so excited for this guy who always did the right thing, whether he was playing or not. I knew it was brutal at the Rotary. He'd just lost his 6 single spot. He couldn't have been more supportive of his teammates when he was playing that supporting role. When he got back into it, worked his butt off, and ended up clinching the state championship for us. And that's Ben Alassi. This last player, along with John and Ben, was a 4-year varsity letter winner. I think going from George and John as captains to John, Ben, and this third player as our captains last year, there's a real change in vibe in terms of going from really loud vocal leaders to more of lead by example guys. And as I said at last year's banquet, I think no one captured it as much as this player. He was not a screamer or a yeller, occasionally at himself, but very rarely. He was a quiet guy on court, but you could always trust him to do the right thing. He was gunning it during sprints, during practice. He was working hard. He was supporting his teammates. He was definitely kind of led that lead by example ethos that the captains had last year. I think he had probably the most disappointing match of maybe his high school career was against Macaulay in the regular season. I was so happy to see him avenge that in the semifinals, probably playing his best match of his senior year in that semifinals. Really, I mean, I think even he was smiling and laughing at some of the shots he hit during that match. There was one, I think, closed eyes backhand deuce winner return that he hit where he was trying not to smile as he went for the changeover. But so excited to see him get that chance for redemption in the semis. Finished strong after really being in a tough spot, playing number 2 singles against some tough opponents for 3 years, and was a great captain for us last year, playing at center this year, and that's Matthew Bulow. Last person I want to recognize is our coach, other varsity coach. Before I do that, I also want to recognize the rest of our coaches. Coach Boyd is here. Coach Boyd does a great job with the junior school program, in addition to Coach Overton. Coach Trotter does a good job with the JV program. There's a really good vibe within the coaches right now, which is nice. As you guys know, there's been a lot of turnovers with coaches in the last couple decades. It's nice to have a good group that's supportive. They get along really well. They work well together. And they make my job a lot easier. I can trust the junior school coaches and JV coaches to do a great job. I really do appreciate that without a strong junior school program and JV program supporting us, we wouldn't be the program we are today, having that kind of success. So thank you to the coaches, Coach Boyd, Coach Overton, and Coach Trotter. I also today want to give a ring and thank Coach Bird. Coach Bird's been a really huge part of the program for the last 2 years. She's only really known success. As soon as she got here, all we've done is win state championships. So I'm hoping that's a good omen and it stays here. As I said before, it feels to me a lot more like 2017, and I'm excited by that. I think it means we've got a big road ahead of us. It's a lot less about staying the best team in the state, but I think we got a really talented team, but has to work pretty hard if we want to have another run at a state championship. I think it's possible. I think that's an exciting place to be, and I look forward to it. Thanks to the parents for coming out, not just today, but for all your support during the season and in the off season.
Don't run off. I just want to say something about Mike Davis, and I know Brad will echo this, and so will Tim Boyd sitting back there, but I hope you parents know this. There's really not a coach on this campus that cares more about the kids that he coaches than this guy. He really does. I mean, when he has a problem with a player or some issue comes up, he takes it so seriously. He's so conscientious about it, and he'll call and we'll talk, or we'll get with Brad and we'll talk. He just genuinely cares about these boys, not just as tennis players, but as people. And he is, I think, an exceptional guy to have as a role model for your kids. I appreciate what you do.
We got a couple minutes left. Thanks so much for coming out. If you guys want to get a picture with the rings, go for it. If you want to put them on and get a picture. Otherwise, I'll see most of you guys at practice today. All right, thanks guys, appreciate it.